388 characters. Here's where psychology trumped steel in frozen air. Skanderbeg gave a signal, 3 short blasts on his horn that cut through screams and clash of weapons. Albanian warriors produced torches pre-prepared and hidden, their flames seeming impossibly bright in the gray winter dawn. Within moments, they set fire to dry brush on valley sides despite the frost, to abandoned Ottoman supply wagons, to anything that would produce thick, choking smoke. The morning wind, predictable in these frozen mountains, carried smoke directly into the valley bottom where 80,000 men struggled to survive. Imagine it, already fighting for your life in near freezing temperatures, already surrounded on 3 sides, and now you can't see 5 feet ahead through smoke that mixed with frozen mist to create impenetrable gray death. The smoke-stung eyes, already watering from cold, choked throats, turned the frozen battlefield into a nightmare where every shadow might hide death and every breath brought ice and ash into burning lungs. Ottoman archers couldn't pick targets through the frozen smoke. Cavalry couldn't charge on ice-slicked ground they couldn't see. But then it got infinitely worse for men already dying of cold and terror. Friendly fire incidents multiplied catastrophically as Ottoman units glimpsing movement through frozen smoke attacked what they thought were Albanian enemies. The valley filled with the horror of men killing their own comrades, Turkish voices screaming, "We're Ottoman," through smoke and frozen breath. But in the chaos and terror and blinding smoke mixed with frost, no one could be certain of anything anymore. Brothers killed brothers on ground so cold their blood froze in spreading pools. Hand-to-hand combat in frozen smoke took on qualities of nightmare itself. Men fought shadows in cold so intense their fingers went numb on sword hilts. Albanian warriors, knowing their positions and using prearranged signals that cut through frozen chaos, maintained cohesion while Ottoman soldiers, separated from units by smoke and ice-slicked ground, fought alone or in small, terrified groups. The smoke that blinded them gave perfect cover to attackers who'd trained for winter warfare since childhood. Bodies creating barriers changed the frozen battlefield's geography with every passing minute. The dead piled so high in places they formed walls of frozen flesh. Men climbed over corpses of comrades that were already stiffening in the cold, slipping on ice-covered bodies to flee or fight. Wounded soldiers trapped beneath the dead added their screams to the cacophony, their blood steaming in frozen air before it iced over. The valley floor became a maze of death, where frost mixed with gore to create treacherous footing that sent men sliding into their own doom. Statistical shock that defies belief. 15,000 already dead or dying in just 3.5 hours of winter warfare. In near-freezing temperatures, the Ottoman force had lost more men than many armies possessed in total. The mathematics of death in frozen conditions were staggering beyond comprehension. But the Albanians, hardened by mountain winters since birth, showed no sign of stopping. Their bodies adapted to cold that was killing lowland Ottomans through hypothermia even before Albanian blades found them. This single battle in winter cold would echo through centuries of military history. As Skanderbeg's cavalry smashed into the reeling Ottoman center through frozen smoke, any semblance of organized resistance shattered like ice. The Ottoman army, one of history's most disciplined forces, devolved into a mob of freezing, terrified individuals. Men threw down weapons with hands so numb they could barely grip them anyway, tore off armor that offered no protection against cold or Albanian fury, trampled wounded comrades whose screams were silenced by frozen mud and blood. The narrow valley mouth, perfect for defense in yesterday's cold. became a death trap for fleeing Ottomans, as thousands tried to squeeze through the single exit on ground, made treacherous by overnight ice. The pressure was so intense that men were crushed to death by their own panicking comrades. Ribs breaking under weight, lungs collapsing, blood freezing on lips that screamed for mercy. Albanian warriors positioned at the valley mouth cut down fleeing soldiers like winter wheat before frozen scythes, their blades growing slick with blood that froze to the metal. In the frozen smoke and chaos, Isak Bey himself fell. Some accounts say an Albanian lance found him. Others claim he was trampled by his own panicking cavalry on ice-covered ground. His death removed the last hope of Ottoman rally in this frozen hell. Hamza, seeing his commander fall, knowing the battle was lost in smoke and ice, made one desperate final attempt to save some portion of the freezing, dying army. The Ottoman command structure disintegrated entirely as subordinate commanders either fled through frozen landscape or died trying to rally men who could no longer feel their frozen fingers, let alone grip weapons effectively in temperatures that made metal burn skin. The frozen Valley of Death presented a scene from winter hell itself. 30,000 bodies across 6 square kilometers. A density of death-defying comprehension. And frost was already forming on corpses that would freeze solid by nightfall. The Tumanishta Valley, which had seemed such perfect winter camping ground 18 hours earlier, was now carpeted with frozen dead. Bodies lay in heaps where men had fallen together, already stiffening in cold that preserved them like winter itself. Standing before his uncle, wounded, armor blood-stained and frost-covered, Hamza represented every choice between blood and empire. You chose empire over blood. Nephew, see where winter led you. Skanderbeg said, words recorded by chroniclers who marveled that 8,000 mountain warriors hardened by winter could destroy 80,000 imperial soldiers in 6 frozen hours. When frost and genius combine, numbers become meaningless. Skanderbeg proved that battles aren't won by counting soldiers, but by outthinking enemies and making winter itself fight on your side. Subscribe to Great History for more epic battles where courage, cunning, and cold itself toppled empires that thought themselves invincible.